We back, baby. Go ahead and hit that subscribe button right now so that you don't miss a thing. You are now tuned in to the system behind the system. Welcome back to the DaVinci podcast. And on today's episode, we're going to discuss ART-CHITECTURE. That's right. I did not say architecture. I said ART-CHITECTURE because behind every single structure is an underlying layer of creativity and design. You can't have one without the other. And vice versa. Behind all artwork is a layer of foundational structure. You see it all over the place. So buckle up your seat belts and let's get ready to dive deep into the ART-CHITECTURE. They say beauty is in the eye of the beholder, right? And I believe that to be true. It's just like how I look at perfection. It might be perfect for somebody, but it might not be perfect for you, right? Same thing. We get to say, that is beautiful. And that is an artistic expression. There is a science side to it as well. When you look at all artwork, first thing that captures your eye usually is the structure, how it's structured, how it's put together, how it was actually composed. Think of artwork like music. How is this composed, right? Think of artwork like a sculpture. Sculptures are a perfect example of what I'm talking about, actually. When you look at a sculpture, the thing that makes it beautiful isn't necessarily what the sculpture is a sculpture of, it's how it was shaped, the balance from top to bottom, the form, the spacing that the artist used, right? Think of Michelangelo, his sculpture David, one of the most famous works of art, first of all, but also most famous sculptures in the world. I mean, amazing geometric shaping and attention to detail, the balance from top to bottom, the proportions of how the upper body to the lower body looks. Like he was articulating architecture. That was ART-CHITECTURE right there. My question for you today, though, is what happens when a structure like that begins to move? For instance, in the human body. The human body, in my opinion, is the greatest work of art in the whole universe, in the whole world. And we aren't the originators or the creators of this work of art, right? God created the body, the human body. But I love it because we actually have the opportunity to hold the paintbrush along with God as our lives develop, as we grow, and this piece of art, work, continues to be shaped and formed, right? We're under construction, right? We're still a work in progress. We're an artwork in progress. You are forever painting the picture of who you are, how you show up, what you're about. And the paintbrush has been given to you by God to be able to have a say in what that looks like. So you're a co-artist with God. I love it. But think about that sculpture and now take it into something that's living, animate, and alive. That is a whole different ball game. The body begins to move, which movement is also a form of art. These are my favorite forms of art. One of my very first forms, I've been doing art for a very long time. My first forms was music. And music is kind of an invisible art, right? You can't see it. You can't taste it. You can't touch it. You can't smell it. You only hear it. And when you hear that form of art, it puts pictures in your mind and you get creative in your mind. And some people have different thoughts about how that form of art, affects them or makes them feel, right? We all paint a different picture when we hear the same song. And maybe some of the pictures we paint are very similar. And that's what the artist, that's part of the artist's creativity. But when it comes to the human body, it's a different ball game. You have all five senses at play. I can't think of any other piece of artwork where all five senses are in play. But that's what happens when you get a work of art like the human body that is alive. That sculpture, it's going to stay static in place, not move at all. And we can admire it. It won't change. The structure is really the foundation of the art. But then the human body is alive. It's moving. Movement is an art. But at the foundation is structure. The human body is my favorite piece of artwork to work on. That's why I do what I do. That's why we architect and engineer a better state for people at the DaVinci Center, at DaVinci Engineer. That's literally what we do. We use the human body to study science and art because it is the greatest form of artwork. Most of the time we look at art and science as two separate things. And I think we do that so that we can understand and refine each area. But I'm all about integration, bringing everything back into wholeness and oneness. And art and science, it's like the right hemisphere and the left hemisphere of the brain, right? One's more logical, science, facts driven. One's more artistic, expression, creative, but it's one brain. It's not two brains working together. It's one brain working as itself, as a whole. Same thing with all science and art. I know we need to separate it out to understand it, but let's bring it back together so we get the whole picture. And that is what I mean by ART-CHITECTURE. The structure is the science. We know that geometry needs to be shaped in a certain way, mathematically. We study these things so we can scientifically begin to enhance and refine the creative process. Structure in architecture is the science. And then the art, we're going to bring that art right back on in there, is the creative process. That's the design process. So here's the DaVinci definition of what ART-CHITECTURE is. It's the intentional organization of structure, space, form, function, material, proportion, and movement. Movement is the key to create an experience. That's simple. That's my definition of ART-CHITECTURE, where we merge art and science to develop and make new experiences. And we experience those things in 5 ways: through our smell, touch, taste, hearing, and vision. Vision is one of those things where you instantly start to see structure right away. And science actually tells us that the things that are more precisely structured are more beautiful to the eyes. But there's structure in music too, in sound, in what we hear. You compose a work of art with music, it has structure on it, but it's art. So there's science and art to it. We can study that composition and find new ways to enhance the structure to create a better form of that art. And smell, there's structure to that, taste and touch. But the human body, we experience all 5 in this work of art. So it starts with the human body, right? I've said this before. The foundation of art, structure, systems, where we can gather and learn for better purposes in other areas, it all starts with the blueprint, and that's the human body. Here's a good example of how the human body is different than other works of art. Think, for instance, a t-shirt. That like you designed a shirt and it has structure, it has shape, it has color, it has creativity behind it. Like, that's a work of art. That is a work of art. To me, that's no different than a painting hanging on the wall that's valued at 15 million at the auction, right? It's the same thing. It was a work of art. You can put this on the body and wear it. But notice when you put the shirt on, and it can be a perfectly art-protected shirt, but from person to person, if you put it the same exact shirt, the same size, on 5 different people, you're going to get 5 different outcomes. It's going to look different across the board. And what makes the differences appear? It's the person's structure, the difference in structure from person to person. You put the shirt on a mannequin and then put it on another mannequin that is structured differently. Like, the shirt's going to drape differently, how it silhouettes across the body, right? It might be tight on one person, it might be large on one person. So we have to make refinements and changes to fit the structure. What's really cool is when you have the body as a work of art structured in such a way, and then you put a work of art that's structured in a t-shirt on that body, and then you begin to move. Because standing in place is one thing, but when that body begins to move, the structure really reveals itself. And that's a work of art in motion. The sculpture can't do that. The painting can't do that. The shirt can't do that. But the greatest artwork on the planet, the human body, can. We experience all 5 senses. We reach a height of not just static form and shape and structure, but we can then animate and move that structure. And movement is an art, for sure. I mean, you hear it in martial arts, right? The fighting arts. Well, there's movement arts as well. The art of movement. Movement's like a dance. It's when the body expresses itself. Dance, perfect example. That is an art form. That is an art form of movement. All movement is an art. The human body, we can architect and create good artwork, place a shirt on it, and then have it move. They do that in the runway, right? On a fashion runway, and to the highest level, it's art in motion. They're displaying the clothing, but the model themselves have put in a lot of work, and there is no substitute for hard work. Like, you can't deny it. They put in a lot of hard work to get their body in a structural state so that when they put on the work of art of clothing, it presents well. It presents how the artist is intending it to present. And then they've precisely architected their walk down the runway. Oh yeah, it's fine-tuned to the T, right? And they practice it over and over and over. That is a form of art in and of itself. But imagine, now put the whole picture together. Fashion is one of those things, man. And I say this all the time. I tell people, what we're doing is we are fashioning the flesh. We are turning the body into a higher level of art. But fashion is one of those things where you now have the human body, a, a work of art, clothing, a work of art at the highest level, and then movement, art protected to the highest level as well. I love it. And when done right, it looks amazing. And you see fashion heading in this direction as well. The whole fashion industry. I mean, they just did the Met Gala event. And if I don't know if you caught it or not, but the theme was the human body as art or wearing artwork. It was literally pointing at the exact topic I'm touching on right now. ART-CHITECTURE, structure, form, the body as art, the body wearing art. What you're going to end up seeing is in some of those museums, a garment that is so artistically expressed, it becomes a painting. And that's what they displayed too. They were displaying clothing right next to paintings hanging on the wall. I love it. I love that the world is heading back in a direction where they're connecting the human body to art. And then that leads to structure because truthfully, you can't have one without the other. They are integrated. We look at art and creative design, and when we say, all right, well, when we go to create again, how can we improve this? That's science right there. Just asking that question, that's a scientific question. And then it enhances art. So, and then the art was the thing that you studied to enhance the art with science. So they're integrated. But yes, you see the fashion industry heading towards this direction, but it's not the only industry heading towards that direction either. Structure is back. Precision is back. I told you guys this. Art is back when it comes to science. This reminds me of, every time I travel, and people who have traveled with me know this about me. When I go to a new city, one of the first things I like to do is check out the architecture. Like I'll really hop on Google and, look at what the famous buildings are and then go check them out and admire the artwork. And you see the attention to detail in some of these structures and the geometric precision from, this side to that side, from this shape to that shape. It's amazing. And you really have to take the time to just appreciate the art in the architecture. It's one of my favorite things to do when I go to a new city that I haven't been before. And even when I revisit some cities, I check out places I haven't yet. And it goes to show how structure and art are so heavily intertwined. Because if that building was structured improperly, it would mess the art up. So you have the human body and then an expression like fashion, and then movement completes it. And here's why movement completes it and why this is one of the highest forms of art. First of all, in order to produce movement, you have to incorporate every part of this piece of art. And that rhymed, that wasn't intentional. But you have to include every part of this piece of art. And so we can start with a static structure that is, architecturally beautiful. Then we can put clothing on it that is also a work of art, but movement is that highest form of what that human body, what that work of art can do. And we don't think of movement as one of the arts. When you first think of art, what is the first thing you think of? A painting on the wall, probably the first thing. Then music, right? Then design and fashion, right? But have you ever thought of movement as like the highest form of art? It really is. So movement completes it. I love it. And when you really think about it, God was actually very smart when he put this together. When you look at it, movement enhances the structure, which then enhances the expression, which then enhances the movement, which then enhances the structure. And it's a loop of forever improving and painting upon this canvas that we call the human body, right? Like think of the bodybuilders. They go and they move, and they're architecting and shaping and developing the structure of their body. They're building their body. Think of that vocabulary there. They are building the body. What do you build? You build structures, right? A building literally is built. The building is a structure. It's the same with your body when you're body building. And you don't have to just body build in order to improve the structure of your body. You can do myofascial release. You can drink more water and improve the structure of your body. You can just breathe a little deeper, and that'll start to change the structure of your body. You can just kind of work on your posture and stand a little taller, and now your presence is stronger. You're more confident. Your energy changed, right? You show up different. Like that all will improve. But good example is a bodybuilder. They are literally trying to work on the aesthetic structural side of how their body looks. And I know vanity, there's a lot of it in the beauty and the how things look and worrying about, the chiseled six pack. It chiseled. We chisel a sculpture and we chisel the human body. I actually just created a program called Sculpt DaVinci, and I'm about halfway through it. I always do this. I create something and I try to refine it to its highest level, and then I experience it. And then I put myself through it before I start to deliver it to other people. Because not only do I want to understand it educationally, intellectually, but I want to understand it through experience as well. That way I can fully embody it, and then I feel confident delivering it to somebody. But this program is literally about chiseling out the architecture, or the best possible architecture in the human body. Now, art is subjective, right? And science is not. But we can take science and say, let's refine our art. And that's what I'm doing with that program. Stay tuned. I'll be launching that soon. But that shows you right there. You can carve out the proper structure in your body, which will enhance the artistic expression that you have, whether when you put clothes on, or when you go to move, or when you do anything with this amazing work of art that God has created and allowed us to be artists in its further development. This is actually a work of art in progress. I absolutely love it. And this is my whole thing. When I help people in the DaVinci Center and everything we do with DaVinci Engineered, it's based off of that principle. The human body is the blueprint, and it's the greatest form of art in the world. And everything we do from then on is based off of how the human body functions as a system and as a work of art. You can create some really good stuff based on that. And we're seeing the world actually head toward that direction. Pretty interesting. Thank you for tuning in to another episode of the DaVinci Podcast. I think this might by far be my favorite so far. Number 10. We're 10 episodes in, y'all. Look, if you got something from this, please like, subscribe, share it with your friends, comment, let me know what your thoughts are. If you have any questions, you can reach out to me at International DaVinci on all platforms. Go check out DaVinciEngineer.com for more information on what we do, how we do it, and how you can get involved in maybe a program. Check out the vault while you're there, and I will see you next week on the DaVinci podcast.